I've always believed that clarity is kindness. That if you plan well enough, early enough, you can avoid about 90% of life's chaos. I'm the guy who keeps an actual grocery list template in notes, with checkboxes sorted by aisle. My sock drawer is arranged by color and material. My emails are tagged, nested, and backed up in 3 clouds. Order gives me peace. I build routines like other people build Lego castles. And somehow, for a long time, that structure held our lives together. Mia used to tease me about it, affectionately at first. She'd mess with my calendar invites just to see if I noticed, or rearrange the mugs in the cupboard, then pretend she hadn't. But lately, the teasing had turned into something sharper. An eye roll when I reminded her of something we were supposed to do. That low sigh when I double-checked whether she'd RSVP'd to a wedding. The distance had crept in quietly, the way moss creeps up the side of a house. Slow and silent, but constant. Still, I thought we were okay. Not perfect, but okay. Our company, well, our startup, though we've grown past startup in size, hosts a winter party every year. It's part formal celebration, part investor show and tell, part we survived Q4 exhale. This year, I'd pitched the idea of holding it in a glass pavilion along the Seattle waterfront. I designed the lighting scheme myself. Soft, warm tones that would bounce off the sound, make the whole place feel like it was glowing. But the centerpiece wasn't the decor. It was what I was planning for Mia. She didn't know. No one did. I'd arranged for a string quartet to begin playing during the thank you segment of the evening. Then I'd take the mic and announce a $25,000 donation in Mia's name to the Seattle Public Library Foundation. Libraries have always been her thing. She once said they were the last honest spaces left in America. It would be a moment just for her. Not flashy, not viral, just right. I wanted her to feel seen. I thought that would matter. The day before the party, Friday, I was working from home. She was supposedly in back-to-back meetings all morning. Around noon, I logged into our shared iCloud folder to upload the final asset package for the event signage. Just habit. We keep our design files, receipts, some of our trip photos all in there. That's when I saw the photo. A live photo, actually. One of those where the image flickers to life when you press it. It was time-stamped 8:23 a.m. Mia, standing in a cream hotel robe, hair still damp, smiling into the mirror. For a split second, it looked ordinary, maybe a photo she forgot to send. But then I pressed the image. The animation began. She adjusted her hair. And there, in the mirror behind her, partially out of focus but unmistakably real, was Derek. Her boss. He was wearing a crisp dress shirt, no jacket, tie in hand. Looking down, like he was scrolling through something on his phone. He wasn't smiling. He looked comfortable, at home. My stomach dropped. The room was unfamiliar, but not unidentifiable. The Harbor Loft Hotel. I recognized the furniture. They used these heavy reclaimed wood nightstands and matte black light fixtures. It's not a chain hotel. It's the kind of place people go when they want to feel quietly important. Not flashy, discreet. In the photo frame, I noticed 2 glasses on the table by the bed. One of them had lipstick on it. Next to them, a folded paper envelope with a hotel keycard half visible. No other clutter. No signs of a work shoot. Just quiet int asterisk Macy. The kind that doesn't expect to be photographed. For a long moment, I just stared at it. I didn't react. I just cataloged it. My brain doing its usual thing. Assess, tag, file. Then my phone buzzed. A charge notification. Our joint account. A $417 charge from Harbor Loft Hotels, Seattle. A few seconds later, another notification. The same charge had been refunded. Too close together to be a coincidence. Too sloppy to be purely business. I didn't say anything to her right away. I waited. Watched. At 12:46, Mia texted me a calendar invite. Partner collab, strategy meeting at HL. The event was backdated for that morning, marked as recurring. She added a few file attachments. A PDF with some brand mockups, a doc labeled shoot brief, and a Slack export between her and Derek, showing a conversation about checking in early before the vendor arrives. It felt preloaded. like she had all of it ready to go. Too much explanation. Too tidy. I stared at the iCloud folder again. 5 minutes later, the photo disappeared. Gone. Just gone from the shared space. But not from my mind. That night, she got home early. Said she wanted time to get ready for the party. She walked past me humming a song I didn't recognize. Light on her feet, like someone who'd been lifted of something heavy. I was chopping vegetables for dinner when she held up her phone and asked, "Do you think navy or emerald for tomorrow night?" I turned. She had both dresses on hangers, swinging them back and forth like she was on a talk show segment. "Emerald," I said. "Always." She smiled. "Thought you'd say that." Later, I watched her spin in front of the hallway mirror wearing it. The deep green looked striking against her skin, and she twirled playfully, laughing when the hem floated up. She leaned in, adjusting her earring. "You think people will take me seriously?" she asked, half joking. "I want to look like I belong in the pitch meetings." I forced a smile. "You look like someone who runs the whole place." She turned to me, blew a kiss, then walked into the bedroom to grab her shoes. That's when I noticed something else. Her phone on the kitchen island buzzed, but the screen didn't light up with any previews. It just lit up blank. Notifications disabled. She used to keep everything open. Nothing to hide. I turned away and grabbed a dish towel. At dinner, she talked about the party. About who would be there. About how excited she was to see the investor deck on the big screens. She called it our second wedding, because she'd finally bought heels that didn't K*LL her feet. I nodded, asked follow-up questions, played along. The photo was still burned into my mind, like an image seared onto film. But I needed more than one frame and a credit card glitch. I needed the whole story, and I was about to get it. After that night, everything she did made a different kind of sense. Not all at once, but in fragments, like a mirror slowly cracking under pressure. I didn't confront her. That's not how I operate. When something feels off, I don't explode. I gather. I build timelines. I test patterns. I observe. If there was one thing I learned from years of product launches, it's that the truth rarely shows up waving a flag. It's quiet, consistent, and if you're patient enough, it always leaks. So I paid attention. The first thing I noticed was her phone. She used to leave it everywhere, on the nightstand, on the couch, face up while cooking. Now it was always face down, always silent, notifications disabled. And she carried it like a limb, never more than a few feet away, even when she showered. She claimed she was trying to unplug from constant pings. But she wasn't unplugging. She was tunneling. Then the cosmetics. About 2 months back, she moved half her routine into the guest bathroom. No explanation. I found her serums and brushes spread out next to the sink one morning. I joked that it looked like Sephora exploded in there. She smiled and said she liked the lighting better. But that bathroom doesn't have a window. The lighting is cold and overhead. And the scent, God, the scent. She used to wear light floral perfumes. Barely there. I used to lean in to smell her neck. Now she wore something sharp. Expensive. Almost medicinal. I asked about it once. She shrugged and said it was grown-up stuff. A sample from one of the PR kits at work. But it didn't smell like her. It smelled like someone trying to project confidence. Or cover something up. Her music changed too. Small thing, I know. But the car's Bluetooth history was suddenly filled with unfamiliar playlists. Stuff I'd never heard her listen to. Synth-heavy indie, male R&B vocalists, ambient house. I asked once, teasing her, "You getting cool on me?" She laughed. "Derek sends playlists in the group chat. I just throw them on sometimes." That was the first time she said his name like that. Casual. Familiar. Without blinking. I logged into our smart home dashboard the next morning. We have an integrated system, lights, locks, cameras, thermostats, tracks everything. I designed it that way. The log showed 3 nighttime entries under her user code in the last month. Times she said she was at her sister's house in Queen and helping with her niece. But those entries were between midnight and 3 a.m. Hours you don't just swing home to grab a charger. I clicked over to the garage panel. A new guest profile had been added, created 7 days earlier. No name, just G2. Granted access to the garage and side door. I cross-referenced the timestamps. The guest code was used once, 3:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. She'd said she slept at her sister's that night too. So I checked the carshare app we both used. We had a household account. Normally, it logs her pickups near the office or from shopping centers. But there were 2 recent short trips. From a block near our home to the harbor loft. Both early in the evening. Both round trips. One matched the morning of the live photo. The other 4 days earlier. I checked our dry cleaning receipts. She's the only one who uses that service. We do everything else in-house. But lately she'd been sending out individual items. A silk top here, a dress there. On the most recent ticket, the return tag still stuck to the clear plastic bag. Was the origin address. 727 Harbor Avenue. The hotel again. I held the receipt in my hand for a long time. It's not that any of this was explosive. There were no lipstick-stained collars or hidden burner phones. Just frictionless digital clues, quiet inconsistencies, behavioral edits. Things that alone meant little, but together painted something I didn't want to see. When I brought up the harbor loft again, casually, "Hey, did the vendor ever send those edited photos from the shoot?" She didn't miss a beat. "Oh yeah," she said, opening her phone. "They were just placement proofs. Nothing final." She showed me a folder in her work Google Drive. For photos. All of empty meeting rooms. Not a single human in any of them. No portraits. I asked. "Nah." Derek said the focus was on space and lighting. I nodded slowly. Makes sense. Later that night, I checked the folder again on my own. The photos had been uploaded at 11:17 p.m. The same day the supposed shoot happened. After the refund. After the iCloud photo. There was no vendor metadata. Just a quick upload from her MacBook. It all added up. Not in the romantic sense, in the forensic sense. There was no single smoking G*N, but the logic tree was fully branched out. Her movements had changed. Her habits had shifted. A shadow version of our life was being managed with precision. And she thought I hadn't noticed. She thought I was too focused on lighting cues and floor plans to notice that her attention wasn't here anymore. That she'd built a parallel routine, complete with hotel trips and playlist swaps and dry cleaning tags that didn't point home. She had the right architecture, but not the discipline to hide the seams. I stopped sleeping properly. Not because of heartbreak yet, but because of the cognitive dissonance. She was still laughing at my jokes. Still leaving half-full tea mugs on the counter. Still humming in the shower. But it all felt acted. Like she was performing wife, the same way she used to perform presentations. Measured, controlled, with just enough enthusiasm to sell the room. I started documenting everything. Not in a crazy person way, just methodically. **TS. Calendar exports. Smart lock logs. I told myself I wasn't building a case. I was protecting myself from gaslighting. Because deep down I already knew. The math was clean. The only thing left was confirmation. But I wasn't going to go to her with accusations. No ultimatums. No demands. If she was going to lie, I wanted to see how far she'd go. Sometimes silence is a test. And she was already failing it. The night of the party, Seattle looked like glass and chrome. Everything shimmered, the bay, the streets, the pavilion itself. I'd arrived early, as usual, wearing the black suit Mia said made me look too much like a banker. The quartet rehearsed in the corner. The catering crew adjusted the floral centerpieces, and outside, I could see the ferries sliding across the water like slow, patient creatures. It should have been perfect. It was supposed to be the kind of evening that restores faith, in love, in partnership, in the idea that good intentions still matter. I had written a short speech. It was typed, printed, folded in my pocket. At the end of the presentation, I would thank the team and then announce the donation to the library fund, her name, her cause, her moment. By 7, guests began arriving. Laughter, sequins, cocktail chatter. I saw Mia across the room before she saw me. She was radiant. The emerald dress again, hair swept to one side. She looked happy in the unthinking way only liars can. Light on her feet, beaming as though nothing heavy lived behind her eyes. She crossed over, kissed my cheek, and said, "You look incredible, Jack. You nervous?" I smiled. "Always." Derek stood nearby, in a midnight blue suit, holding a glass of champagne like it belonged there. He nodded at me with the smooth confidence of someone who thought we were friends. The kind of nod that says, "You and I both know how to play the game." The speeches began. The CEO talked about growth, team culture, innovation. Words that blurred together. I kept glancing toward Mia. She was chatting, laughing too easily. When my segment approached, she leaned over and whispered, "You're up next, right? Don't chicken out." Her lipstick left a faint mark on her glass. I remember that because it would come back to me later. Halfway through the presentation, as the partner recognition slides cycled on the massive LED wall, I turned to check if she was watching. But her chair was empty. At first, I thought she'd gone to the restroom or stepped away to take a call. But minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Her clutch sat on the table, her phone inside. Derek's seat was also empty. My pulse began to climb. Not from jealousy, but from that sickening sense of déjà vu, when the world starts repeating itself in darker shades. I slipped away quietly, through a service door near the catering prep area. The air back there smelled like wine and sterilizer. I walked past the storage racks, down a narrow corridor where the hum of the building changed. Quieter, heavier, mechanical. A small sign read, "Service elevator, staff only." The call button glowed red. The elevator doors were ajar, stopped 1 inch open. I heard faint music through the crack. Not the quartet, something tinny and rhythmic, playing from a phone speaker. I pressed the panel and the door slid open fully. Inside, empty trays. 2 bottles of champagne on the floor. A linen napkin with a faint lipstick smear, same shade as Mia's glass. A men's jacket draped across a chair. The elevator opened into a low-ceiling technical level behind the main stage, bare concrete, cables, projection equipment. Through a thin, semi-transparent screen that faced the stage, I could see silhouettes moving in front of the light spill. And then her laugh. Soft, nervous, familiar. The kind of sound she made when she was trying to seem composed. I moved closer to the screen. It wasn't solid, more like a rear projection film, so you could see motion through it, shapes, the suggestion of bodies. 2 figures stood close, half-lit by the flicker of slides transitioning on the main stage. Her outline, unmistakable in that emerald dress. His shadow, taller, angular. Derek. They were pressed together, her hands on his chest, his head bent toward her neck. The kind of closeness you don't mistake for anything else. Behind them, on the giant wall of the pavilion, her name flashed in white text. Mia Harris, Community Partnerships. The applause of the audience filtered faintly through the barrier, like the soundtrack to a cruel joke. I don't remember breathing. My mind fractured into still frames. Her silhouette, the reflection of their motion against the console screens. The string quartet beginning their next set above, oblivious. I backed away slowly, careful not to make a sound. My body felt both numb and electric. On the table beside the console, someone had left a half-full glass of champagne. Condensation ring beneath it. 2 glasses, actually. Always 2. A nearby monitor, part of the technical system feeding the projectors, showed multiple camera feeds. One of them, the corridor outside, displayed a timestamp, 21 hours 47 minutes and 36 seconds. It was mirrored, the kind of feed used for security or stage cues. And in that mirrored frame, just seconds earlier, both of them had entered the restricted hallway leading to this level. Together, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the timestamped feed. 1 click. Silent mode. Evidence. Not for revenge, not even for leverage. For clarity. Because in that instant, everything I'd suspected, every late-night hunch and data trail, solidified into something undeniable. Not paranoia, not insecurity. Fact, they hadn't just crossed a line, they'd built a whole map around it. And for the first time, I could see it clearly. I stood there for maybe a minute longer, long enough to realize the string quartet had beg asterisk end the arrangement I'd requested. Her favorite movement from Vivaldi's Winter. The one I'd planned to lead into the donation reveal. My speech was still folded in my pocket. My throat ached. I could almost hear the introduction I'd written. Some partnerships outgrow business. Some become family. This gift is for the person who reminds me that stories still matter. I left the service level through the opposite corridor, rejoining the event floor as if nothing had happened. My colleagues were laughing near the bar, talking about the light show. Someone handed me a drink. I didn't take it. When Mia reappeared 15 minutes later, she looked composed. A slight flush on her cheeks, hair repinned. She smiled when she saw me, sliding back into her seat as if nothing had interrupted the evening. "Where'd you go?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Just checking something with the AV team," she said, too quickly. "Mic issue." Derek needed me to confirm. I nodded. "All good." "Yeah, fixed." Her hand brushed mine under the table. Warm. Familiar. False. The quartet finished their set. Applause filled the room. I stood, smiled politely, and excused myself. Told her I needed air. She didn't follow. Outside, the waterfront was dark and still. The reflection of the pavilion shimmered on the black water, all glass and gold and noise, like a world continuing without me. I pulled out my phone again, staring at the photo of the timestamp. 21 hours, 47 minutes, and 36 seconds. That's when I stopped being her husband and started being a witness. I didn't know what came next. Not yet. But I knew I'd never walk back through that door the same way again. I didn't go home that night. I walked out of the pavilion through the side exit, bypassing the valet stand where attendants were laughing and tossing keys to each other. My car was parked 2 blocks down, under a flickering streetlight. When I opened the door, the interior smelled like leather and the faint citrus of the cleaner I'd used earlier that week. Familiar, neutral, safe. I sat there for a while, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching the reflection of the building in the windshield. Inside, the party kept moving. Music, applause, clinking glasses. From a distance, it looked perfect, like nothing had fractured. It was strange, the calm that settled over me. I expected fury, something cinematic, shouting, confrontation, chaos. But what I felt was precision, a mechanical stillness, like my body had handed control over to some quieter, colder part of my mind. The planner, the systems engineer, the man who makes lists when the world starts falling apart. I started the car and drove. Not home. Not yet. I kept to side streets, tracing the waterfront, then up the viaduct, through industrial zones where the city's heartbeat softened to a hum. Every stoplight turned green before I reached it, as if the night itself wanted to let me pass. I didn't play music. The only sound was the low static of tires against wet asphalt. Somewhere past midnight, I pulled into a 24-hour laundromat. The sign buzzed faintly, its fluorescent letters missing half their bulbs. Inside, rows of machines rotated behind fogged glass. The air smelled of detergent and rain-soaked coats. I sat in the corner booth with a cup of bad vending machine coffee and opened the Notes app on my phone. My fingers hovered for a moment before typing the header. Action list poesti event. It wasn't anger guiding me. It was procedure. Step 1. Stabilize the situation. Step 2. Gather legal support. Step 3. Remove emotion from the workflow. I typed the first bullet. Find family lawyer. Infidelity grounds. Then another. Secure personal banking. Then another. No confrontation until verified counsel plan. The mechanical act of listing things steadied me. I'd built my life on order, and now order was the only thing that made sense. The betrayal itself didn't feel real yet. It was data. Input. A variable to manage. The grief would come later. I could schedule that. I stayed there until the sky started to lighten, faint blue leaking into the gray clouds. Around 5:30, a man came in carrying a plastic bag of clothes. He nodded to me, loaded a washer, and left. The sound of the cycle starting was strangely grounding. I finished the list. Log evidence, Timestamp photo, smart lock data, transactions. Book temporary stay, no shared address activity. Contact HR conflict of interest policy, for Derek. Notify accountant to separate assets. Do not communicate emotionally. I stared at the last line for a while. Do not communicate emotionally. It looked absurdly clinical, but it was the only rule that might keep me from unraveling. At 6, I left the laundromat. The rain had started again. Fine mist, not heavy. I drove north until the skyline disappeared in the mirror, then pulled into a highway motel near shoreline. The kind of place where the clerk doesn't ask questions if you pay in cash. The room smelled faintly of bleach and cigarettes. I didn't care. I set my phone on the nightstand, shoes beside the bed, jacket folded on the chair. When I finally lay down, the exhaustion hit all at once. My body remembered it was human. I closed my eyes and saw the projection screen again. Her silhouette, his hands, the glow of her name behind them. My brain replayed it in loops, not cinematic anymore but procedural. The timestamp, the sound of the quartet, the champagne bottle on the console. I pressed my palms over my eyes until the images blurred. The ceiling above me was water-stained and unfamiliar. I thought about the donation announcement that never happened. The money was still sitting in the company fund account, untouched. I decided then I'd redirect it anyway. Quietly. No event, no applause. Just done. Private completion. At 8:30, after a shower that felt too hot, I called the only person who'd pick up early on a Saturday. Our attorney. Someone we'd used for corporate filings years ago. His voice was dry, practical. "Jack, you sound like you haven't slept," he said. "I haven't," I replied. "I need to initiate a separation. Infidelity grounds. I have documentation." He paused. "Understood. Do you want to come in today?" "Yes, the sooner the better." He gave me an appointment for 11. I thanked him, hung up, and sat on the edge of the bed. The word infidelity kept echoing in my head. Not shouted, just stated, like a label on a file folder. There was no romance left in it, no cinematic betrayal, just paperwork and policy. I realized, distantly, that this was my anchor point, the moment where pain became process, where something irreparable hardened into a plan. When I left the motel, the sun had finally broken through the clouds. The light was pale, filtered, hesitant. I stopped at a gas station for another coffee and looked at myself in the mirror above the sink. Same face, same calm expression, no outward trace of what had broken. But inside, something fundamental had shifted. The version of me that believed good behavior guaranteed good outcomes was gone. The man who replaced him would move differently. He'd plan differently. At exactly 11, I walked into the lawyer's office with a folder containing the photo, the logs, and a printed copy of my action list. He skimmed the documents without visible reaction. "This is sufficient evidence," he said. "Do you want me to contact her directly?" "Yes, she'll receive formal notice. I don't want to speak to her." He nodded, making a note. "You understand that once this begins, you can't unring the bell." "I understand," I said. "That's the point." As I left the office, I checked my phone. One unread text from Mia. "Where did you go last night? Everyone was asking. Please call me." No punctuation errors. Polished. Composed. The kind of message you send when you're already rehearsing your defense. I archived it without opening the thread. The clouds had started closing again over the city, but the air smelled cleaner somehow. I drove with the windows cracked, letting the cold wind fill the car. Every mile felt like a small reclamation. There was no dramatic closure, no cinematic breakdown. Just a quiet recalibration, a man switching systems, rerouting energy, rewriting his own architecture. That's what I told myself, anyway, that this wasn't the end of my life, just the moment I stopped living someone else's version of it. By Sunday morning, I was back at the house, but not as a husband. More like a technician returning to decommission a system. I parked in the driveway and stared at the front door for a full minute before unlocking it. The house looked exactly as I'd left it. Blinds drawn, porch light off, her shoes still neatly lined inside the door. But everything felt hollow, like the bones of something that had already died. I stepped inside without hesitating. I had work to do. The legal notice had gone out that morning, certified, with a copy delivered to her work email via the attorney. It was worded clinically. Intent to separate. Grounds. Marital infidelity. Supported by documentation. Further communication to be routed exclusively through counsel. I imagined her seeing it in her inbox. Her heart stalling. Her brain scrambling for versions of the story that might soften the shape of what she'd done. That wasn't my problem anymore. I set down my bag, opened the kitchen laptop, and pulled up my action list. This was phase 2. Practical steps. Not dramatic, just necessary. I started with the financials. We'd maintained a joint account for years. Household expenses, shared purchases, taxes. I logged in and initiated a freeze on outgoing transfers. Then I opened a new personal checking account under my name only, routed my payroll deposit to it, and enabled alerts on every transaction. From now on, she wouldn't be able to touch a dollar I earned. Next, I pulled up our shared digital infrastructure. Subscriptions, cloud services, delivery platforms, smart home access. Netflix, canceled. Spotify family plan, deleted. Grocery deliveries, disabled. Cloud storage, locked down. Our photo album was already empty. She'd done that days ago. Now the shell went too. Deleted permanently. Passwords came next. I ran through the list: router, Wi-Fi, email aliases, my MacBook, shared drive credentials, even the dumb little calendar app we used for weekend planning. All changed. All secured. I logged out of every device she'd ever used, revoked access tokens, and updated the 2FA on everything tied to my name. Then I moved to the house itself. The smart lock system we'd installed last year had a clean interface. I pulled up the guest list. Her user code disabled. The G2 guest profile? Deleted. I issued myself a new admin-level master key and revoked every other credential. Garage access? Gone. Doorbell camera? Reset. Thermostat routines? Reset. Backup automation scripts? Cleared. She wouldn't be walking back into this space as if it were still hers. That door had closed. I walked room to room like a technician in a shutdown facility, assessing what belonged to whom. In the bedroom, I opened the closet and scanned for her things. I didn't touch them. Not yet. But I photographed the layout. Created a quick inventory. Jackets, dresses, drawers labeled in my notes. I moved to the bathroom. Her serums and oils in the guest vanity. I grouped them carefully on the counter. Toothbrush. Hair tools. Drawer contents. All logged. All untouched. Then I called a courier service. I scheduled a pickup for Wednesday. Addressed to her office. Labeled, personal effects. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted a clean extraction. One line in the courier request. Please deliver with receipt confirmation. No signature required. By mid-afternoon, I'd cleared out the kitchen drawers, recipes, post-it notes, the old shared binder with vacation plans. I took out everything with her handwriting on it. Not to destroy, just to remove the residue. I boxed them neatly, labeled it miscellaneous archive, and stored it in the garage. The entire time I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I moved with quiet efficiency. Every step was its own small victory. Every deletion, every revocation. A thread being untied from around my ribs. When the work was done, I sat down and wrote her one email. The last one I'd ever send. Subject, forward. Body, Mia. All legal communication will now proceed through my attorney. Daniel Marks, copied. Please do not contact me directly. Your belongings will be couriered this week. Jack. That was it. One paragraph. No emotion. No indulgence. Just the formal conclusion to a chapter she'd already closed without me. I copied Daniel, hit send, and archived the thread. Then I turned off the computer, walked outside, and sat on the back steps. The sun had dropped low over the water. The yard was quiet. Our hydrangeas had wilted in the fall air, the petals a tired gray blue. I remembered planting them with her. She'd worn old jeans and a sweater with a hole in the sleeve. She joked that she'd never be a gardener, but she'd laughed while digging into the soil. That memory didn't hurt. Not exactly. Felt distant, like watching someone else's home movie. Inside, I started cleaning. Not because anything was messy, but because I needed to reclaim the rhythm of this place. I changed the sheets, washed every mug, vacuumed the hall rugs. I even reset the lighting presets, dimmed the living room to warm tones, and deleted the movie night setting we'd made together. When I finished, I stood in the center of the living room and took a slow breath. The house didn't feel like mine yet. Not fully. But it didn't feel like hers anymore either. It was something in between. A space in transition. Like me. I slept that night with the bedroom door open. No sound machine, no blackout curtains. Just silence. I woke up at 4:13 a.m., disoriented but calm. I stared at the ceiling for a while, my mind surprisingly blank. No flashes of the hotel. No audio loops of her laugh. Just breath. Just stillness. That morning I made a new list. Not for survival. For rebuilding. Header. Next 30 days. System reset. Update insurance policies. Schedule therapy intake. Research new apartment. Reassign home address for mail. Organize personal storage unit. Digital detox. Deactivate socials. I wasn't racing. I wasn't rushing toward closure. But I was moving. One clean step at a time. And with every step, the architecture of my life reformed around something simpler. Something quieter. Something mine. Derek resigned quietly. Compliance pulled logs. A leaked clip confirmed everything. Partner froze the account. Mia vanished. Then started mailing handwritten letters from random cities, full of nostalgia, excuses, and shifting truths. I didn't respond. I rerouted the unused party funds to the library under her name. No press, no speech. Just a silent correction. I moved to a quiet apartment in Ballard. Therapy running by the bay, clean routines. No shared playlists, no coded doors. Mia appeared once at a farmer's market. We exchanged a nod. That was enough. The divorce finalized cleanly. I started seeing Emma from the run group slowly, honestly. Not a fix. Not a rebound. Just someone walking beside me. Peace came not from forgetting, but from choosing my own life again.